Set deep in the heart of the South Hams in Devon and adjacent to the Avon River is the picturesque station of Loddiswell. Just north of Kingsbidge, the station was one of the stops on the Primrose line that ran through to Brent. Originally opened in the 19th of December 1893 by the Great Western Railway, the stone building was a classic William Clark design. The station was nearer the parish of Woodley, the village of Loddiswell being about a mile away and mostly uphill. The platform was on a slight curve for a single track, with a river on the opposite side. A feature in later years was the presence of camping coaches where enthusiasts could enjoy a rail-side holiday courtesy of the GWR and later British Rail. The station was downgraded to an unstaffed halt when it closed to freight on the 6th of February 1961, with the station master's house just north of the station. Despite local opposition, the line was finally closed on the 16th of September in 1963. The station passed into private ownership and was left for Mother Nature to take over, and it became a Devon derelict. Until Sheila Bolam was looking for a new home in the 1970s. She saw the building and fell in love. She could see the potential of it becoming a home. Sheila explains in her own words what happened.
We were looking originally for a piece of land on which to build a house, and we saw this building and it seemed to be wanted to be looked after. It seemed that it wanted loving, and like any tourist we poked our nose in and had a look round and more or less fell in love with the place from that point onwards. At that time the gentleman who owned it didn't want to sell it at all, so we asked him if he would take our name down on a list, and he said yes. He had a long list of up to 20 people and he would consider it. A year later, when we'd already bought a house, we received a note through the door to say that a local estate agent was now selling Loddiswell Station and were we interested. Of course we were, but by that time we were heavily committed. I went down to the estate agents to find the details, and it suddenly occurred to me that I had about £25 in my pocket, which was the housekeeping money for the week. So I tentatively gave him that as a deposit on Loddiswell Station, not wondering what we were going to do next. I then rang my father in the northeast of England, asked him if he would loan me a considerable amount of money. Dad thought this was shocking that his daughter should ask for so much and thought I was in trouble with the police, until I explained that in fact I wanted to buy a house. The money came practically by return of post, and to the surprise of the estate agent we were able to go down almost 2 days later and say yes, we had the money, and by virtue of me placing that instant deposit on the counter we were considered as the first option buyers, and that's how we got Loddiswell Station. It was what we would call a Devon derelict. It was practically as it was the day the railway company moved out. A little bit forlorn. The windows had been boarded up with tin. It stood looking rather weary, but the structure was so good that you could tell that there was a lot of life in the old girl yet. We had huge keys to open the big padlocks on the doors, and when we threw back the doors, inside it was just step back into time, I would say. The old ledger pockets were still there, the ticket office panel was still there, the decorated hand basins, the Victorian decorated hand basins in the loos, they're all there, but sadly somebody had taken a sledgehammer to some parts, so they were irretrievable. And we just took it from there. We used to play games. We used to have friends up for barbecues, and we treated it like a toy at first. We bought it in 1971 and moved in 1973. We did most of the demolition. Myself, my ex-husband and a team of good friends did most of the demolition, which is in fact the hardest part, because we had to demolish some of the old parts to renew the building because of building regulations and planning law. The old place was so well built that knocking it down was a monumental task. So we did most of the demolition, and then a local builder rebuilt the parts which we wanted with skills which we couldn't sort of muster ourselves, and it took 2 years. We found, buried in the undergrowth, the old station boundaries. Every station had its boundary signs. These are plaques which you'll see when I take you into the house, which we've embedded in the walls of the house. They were in fact welded onto 3 or 4 foot of track and sunk deeply into the ground, and in one case, to get these off, we had to go up into the woods regularly with 2 hacksaws and do about 1/8 of an inch a day until eventually we retrieved them, and we've put them inside the house because we think they should be preserved there. Over the years also, I've had people who took things away from the station site when the railway eventually disappeared, and have returned them to me because they've found out that I honour the heritage of the station, and they've even knocked on the door and asked me, "Are you the owner? I think you ought to have these back. I took them from your platform many years ago before the British Railways Board got their hands on them." So in that way I've preserved quite a bit of what was here originally.
Some of the Primrose line is still a popular walkway, enjoyed by the young and old as they follow the line along the Avon River. Sheila recalls how people would stop by and reminisce about the line, the station and the wonderful holidays that they enjoyed in Kingsbidge.
So it was Harry's idea. If we were becoming a public attraction, we thought, well, we might as well sit them down, because I spend a lot of my time talking to people. I like people, and most people are interested in a sort of caring, loving sort of way, and of course this side of the house is private from the road. So we started giving people a cup of tea, and that led to a cup of tea and a biscuit, and gave them a bit more of our time, and then we thought, well, there's a need here, there's a service. So we obtained permission from the local council to offer them cream teas in the garden, and it went from there. And it's a very interesting and absorbing hobby. They get something, we get something, and hopefully everybody goes away happy.
Sheila moved from the station sometime in the early 2000s, and a new owner purchased the property. They had a replica signal box constructed on the south side of the platform. Loddiswell didn't have a signal box since it was only a single track, but the replica was in the style of the GWR, similar to the one at Gara Bridge, which was the only passing place on the line with a passing loop. Richard and Nikki Curzon took ownership of Loddiswell in 2013. Richard explains why the signal box was built.
The signal box building was built by our predecessors, again probably now 20 years ago, sort of 2002, 2003. They built the signal box, which is a kind of a faithful replica of the original 2 boxes which were on the line. There was one box at Gara Bridge, one box at the terminus at Kingsbidge. Sadly, neither of those exist now, but the box here externally is pretty much a like-for-like reproduction. It's somewhat bigger, in terms of its floor space. It's a lot larger than a traditional signal box, but externally it looks pretty much exactly as you'd expect.
The replica signal box is now a self-catering holiday let for rail enthusiasts or anyone who would like to explore the local area of Kingsbridge in the Avon Valley.
The box was constructed to house an indoor swimming pool, one of these like a treadmill that you swim against the current. So that was originally on the ground floor, and the upstairs was a an open plan sort of games room sort of area, and we saw the potential to convert that into the holiday accommodation. The first 12 months we were here, sort of 2014, we spent doing all of the conversion work. So we stripped out the pool. It was a blank canvas. So the ground floor is now the bedrooms. There's a king-size double and a smaller twin-bedded room alongside the shower room on the ground floor. And then upstairs is all open plan with sort of the kitchen area, a sort of dining area, and then sort of, well, the seating, sort of sofa seating for 6 and a wood burner. So a big open plan sort of first floor.
The rest of the station has been kept as original as possible, with some bits being salvaged from other parts of the line. Richard explains where some of these originally came from.
The construction work was undertaken in 2002, 2003, and the building firm that were doing that work were also working on the level crossing keeper's cottage just upstream, about 1.5 miles at Topsham Bridge. And when they were doing the renovation work for the level crossing, this post was obviously in the way or was surplus, and the builders actually installed it alongside the signal box as a little bit of in-keeping sort of memorabilia. So it all kind of fits in, and it just adds a little bit more of the, keeps a little bit more of the original material with the line, so to speak.
The beautiful steam journey through the heart of the Devonshire countryside is long gone, with the infrastructure well and truly torn up. But it is nice to see how people like Sheila and now Richard and Nikki want to keep that memory of the line alive. When standing on the platform at Loddiswell, you can sense the thunder of the engines and the smell of the smoke and remember a simpler time. As you stand there, you can't help but marvel at the romance and mystique of the steam era, a time when travel was much about the journey itself as the destination. You can still visit Loddiswell station, but by appointment only, or you can book a stay in the replica signal box. There is a link in the description. There is more about the entire journey from Brent to Kingsbidge in the video Back Along the Primrose Line on our channel. We say thank you to the dedicated preservationists of stations like Loddiswell that allow us to relive the past and appreciate the craftsmanship and engineering that went into creating railways like the Primrose Line. Aarchive Films is constantly on the lookout for its next documentary celebrating the golden age of steam or trains of the past, and we need your help. If you have any old movie footage from the trains of yesteryear, please reach out to us. Preserve the magic of steam trains for generations to come. Please feel free to contact us via our website. Thank you.